It doesn't happen all the time, but every so often we see Jesus asking a question in the gospel reading. And any time that Jesus does ask a question, it's good for us to pause and reflect upon what that question really is all about. If you look at the word question, the first part of it is the word quest, which means a journey. And certainly, anytime Jesus asks a question, he is inviting his listeners to go on a journey, to go deeper into their own understanding, and to grow deeper in their own spiritual life. Today's gospel is a wonderful example of that happening. You might be able to picture in your mind Jesus walking with his disciples and talking about some of the things that they have heard and seen. And Jesus just kind of turning to them and say, well, who do people say that I am? And the apostles very quickly respond, well, some say you're John the Baptist. Others say you're Elijah. And still others say you're one of the prophets. But this is where now Jesus wants to take the disciples on a journey. And he says to them, that's all fine, but who do you say that I am? Jesus is inviting them to go deeper into their own lives and hearts and examine their own relationship with Jesus. Many spiritual writers will tell us that there are basically two kinds of faith. The first faith is that which we would call inherited faith. We learn our catechism, we learn from our parents, we learn all about Jesus and God and the church from what we are taught. That is inherited faith. Then we also have a personal faith. And what that involves is that we take the teachings that we have heard all our lives and we put them into our own personal experience so that God and his teachings and Jesus suddenly become more real. They are not just words on a page, or they're not just nice phrases that are spoken, but rather we come to have a personal relationship with God and with Jesus. And this is precisely what Jesus is inviting the disciples to do in today's reading. They knew all the scriptures that would have referred to the long-awaited Messiah. But they were also very much aware of the words and the actions of Jesus. They heard how he addressed people. They heard his teachings. They saw how he reached out to the sick and to the lame. He reached out to those who were poor and in need. They had very personal experiences of Jesus. And yet, when they were first asked, they gave answers that probably anyone else could have given. So Jesus takes them on a journey. And that journey is to go deeper into their own hearts, their own spiritual experience, to come to an awareness of who Jesus is for them. Jesus poses that same question to us. Who do you say that I am? And it becomes very safe to give the answers that maybe we've learned since elementary school days. But it's more difficult to respond to that question when we experience Jesus throughout our life, when we see how his words affect people, how we see in the gospel stories, he changes people's lives and changes so many teachings to talk about an unconditional, loving God. So Jesus invites each one of us gathered here this day to also go on a journey, to go beyond the inherited faith that we all have, to grow and experience that personal faith that we are all called to. The question that I would like to leave with you this day is, if Jesus was to appear to you at this very moment and ask you, who do you say that I am? How would you respond?